Chapter 81 K's first regret, the cat and mouse game begins. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Although the tone was full of coldness and disdain, but K didn't hesitate at all, and quickly stood up and walked quickly towards the room not far away. As the leader of this drug trafficking organization, he knows very well how deadly the evidence and clues in this dark web can be if the police get hold of them. Because of this, only K would set so many restrictions on this dark web. And he even needs to be notified in advance to log in, but actually, even without the hardware warning method. K does not think that anyone can break through this dark network, because defense is much simpler than offense. Moreover, his computer programming skills already belong to the top group of people in the world. I have been immersed in the ocean of binary numbers since I was 5 years old. I can live a day without crying or making trouble in front of the computer. I have even hacked the mailboxes of senior leaders of the United States, and those emails that colluded with politicians and capital were published on the entire internet, causing K to be still on the wanted list of the United States. Certainly, the reward is also just a code name, not K's real name, or rather, in this world, I'm afraid there are very few people who know what K's real name is now, because of this. K was a little surprised that this dark network was breached and invaded. Walk quickly to the room. K looked at the laptop placed on the desktop, preparing to log in directly to the administrator system and kick the access account offline. K, who was holding the mouse, suddenly froze, because his administrator qualification was actually taken away, and an IP address from Shanghai suddenly became the only administrator of this dark network. There was simply no time to think about it in detail. K immediately unplugged the network cable connected to the laptop, hoping to deny this illegal intrusion. Although I am very confident in my hacking skills, but out of caution, K directly placed the dark web server on this laptop. Therefore, you only need to disconnect the internet to forcibly prevent anyone from accessing the website. But the next second, K was stunned again. Although the network cable was disconnected, the laptop connected to the wireless Wi-Fi in this room on its own. For the security and privacy of the dark web, all this time, he has never connected to a public wireless network. Only a private network plugged into the network cable. Even the wireless in this room has been strictly encrypted and the address cannot be learned from the IP, but now this situation can only explain, the person who infiltrated the website in Magic City was not in a hurry to log into the dark web after he was sure that he could break through the blockade. On the contrary, I spared some time to remotely control the laptop, connected it to the wireless network, and imagined possible problems. One by one, everything is just to read as much content in the forum as possible. That is undoubtedly proven. This person also knew that once logged into the dark web, an alarm text message would be sent to a certain mobile phone. This moment, K's originally calm eyes suddenly turned cold, and he didn't even try. Can I use mouse control to disconnect the wireless, or can I force the notebook to shut down with the power button? Just lift the expensive notebook high above your head, and then slam it down hard. Bang! The laptop was smashed in half in an instant. Various parts were scattered everywhere, and even the screen was broken into several pieces. It's obvious, K's decisiveness and calmness are definitely beyond the scope of ordinary people. After discovering that even the computer was hacked, without trying any more rescue measures, he directly smashed the laptop that served as the server into pieces. The servers on the dark web are all down. Naturally, you can no longer access the content. At this time, staring at the scraps of notebook on the ground, K returned to his usual calm expression, and his mind began to think rapidly. The IP address just came from Shanghai. It is basically certain that it is a doctor who failed the organizational examination and left a special clue for the police, and it must be. The clues had been left long before the sculptor found him. After all, facing the madman, the doctor probably didn't have much room to resist, but in the current Shanghai public security system, who can break through this dark network? Quan? No, absolutely impossible. With Quan's half-baked hacking skills, there is a high probability that even if he is given 10 years, he will not be able to break through this dark net. Moreover, it is not a hidden imitation method, but a violent breakthrough technology is directly used. Is this why high criminal investigation, or has the Shanghai public security system recruited some new talents? Even if he is a genius like no other, you have to learn hacking techniques and computer programming from your mother's womb in order to violently break through your own darknet bar. Not to mention, you can also calmly set up the backend and connect all wireless devices to buy time. Think for a few seconds. K suddenly showed a cold smile with clear meaning and hidden madness, and whispered to himself. This time, I lost. But the good news is, you don't seem to be winning much either. And he reminded me, that at this time, the slightly heavy footsteps stopped at the door of the room. The middle-sized pastor still held a cigar in his mouth and said in a muffled voice. K. Do you need me to do something? That the pastor never asked what happened because he believed in K's brain and criminal IQ, so from joining the organization to now, he has only asked K what he needs to do. Regarding the pastor's question, K did not answer immediately, but picked up another laptop from the desktop. He began to check the browsing logs of the dark web. K's caution and calmness are self-evident, which allowed this huge drug trafficking organization to hide for several years without being discovered. Not only did he use the laptop as a server, but he also used another laptop to receive the browsing logs of the website. Of course, this is not only to prevent someone from breaking through the dark web, but also to monitor and control other members of the organization. A few minutes later, K, who had already checked the logs, exhaled heavily, but he did not turn his head, but just said calmly without any waves. Pastor. Do you know why I have never let the sculptor take charge of the business in the Magic City for so many years? Even though he grew up in the Magic City, he has excellent killing skills and is even one of the earliest veterans to join the kill organization. Hearing this question, the pastor took a deep puff of the cigar in his mouth and answered while exhaling smoke. Because he is an old drug dog, plus he has a good reputation and connections in society. As long as he becomes the head of the agent online, it will be easy for the police to find him and get him out, right? K shook his head gently, showing a meaningful sneer, and said slowly. These are secondary. The most important reason is that the sculptor is a pure madman. In his eyes, creating works is the most important thing. So even I am not 100% sure that I can control his thoughts and whereabouts. Like this time. I just asked him to get rid of the doctor, but what did he do in the end? He let the doctor fall to his death in public, and even released the video of the case 20 years ago to provoke the Huaihai police. He even said that this was a very imperfect work, and he was very frustrated and angry. To be honest. When I heard the sculptor say these details earlier, I actually wanted to kill him. A criminal provoking the police? What's the difference between a mouse provoking a hungry wild cat? Is he afraid that he won't die fast enough? Doesn't he know that Lin Tian of the Huaihai Criminal Investigation Brigade is going crazy thinking about finding him? I regret it a little now. If I had known earlier, I would have let Diao take a big risk to get rid of the doctor, which would have been much better than sending the sculptor to do it. For so many years, the middle-aged man codenamed Pastor heard the word regret from K for the first time. He took another puff of the cigar, and said in a rather cold and firm voice. K. Do you want me to go to the Magic City and get rid of this damn sculptor directly? K picked up the notebook in his hand and walked slowly towards the door, as if he was ready to continue tasting red wine and basking in the sun. When he walked to the pastor, he suddenly stopped and said expressionlessly. Please notify them for me. Let others immediately cut off contact with their agents. If there is a danger of their identities being exposed, I don't care what means they use, they must get rid of those who will expose their identities. Without my order, no action is allowed, let alone continuing to sell those drugs. Then, let Xiangwei help make more human skin masks, because it will be a game of hide-and-seek later. We are the prey, and they are the hunters. After that, K continued to move forward, but after only 2 steps, he suddenly stopped and said with unprecedented coldness. That's right. From now on, there will be no sculptor in our organization. No one is allowed to contact him anymore, and there is no need to get rid of him in advance. Because of my understanding of the sculptor. Before being caught by those policemen, he will definitely try his best to turn himself into the last work of his life. Chapter 82, Su Ming won the second-class merit, and the 100-day clearing operation for unsolved case. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At this moment, in the technical department of the Huaihai Criminal Investigation Brigade, all the police officers holding their mobile phones to take pictures looked at each other at the same time. with some unspeakable disappointment in their eyes when they saw the conspicuous 404 logo, but the next second, these disappointments were replaced by excitement and excitement, Huang who even waved his fist in the air, and his voice was trembling with excitement. Ming. Brother Ming. Fuck, did you just dig out? All the subordinates of that huge drug trafficking organization, just like the old drug dog with a high status like Shogo. With this list, wouldn't it be possible to completely clear the high-purity drug sales network of this drug trafficking organization? Looking at the interface of the screen, Su Ming couldn't help but sigh secretly. Although he was still a little helpless and disappointed, he also tried his best to get useful clues from the dark web in the limited time just now. After sorting out his complicated thoughts, Su Ming looked at the excited Huang who beside him, and shook his head a little helplessly. Huzi. This is just the removal of the sales network. As for high-purity drugs, I think if the huge drug trafficking organization is not uprooted, it is destined to never disappear. After saying that, Su Ming looked at Quan, who was habitually holding his glasses, and gestured. Brother Quan. Since your Dragon flagship phone has high pixels, please send the video you just recorded to our internal platform. By the way, did you just record some? The details and overview of the crime shared in the post by the murderer of the dismemberment case at Magic City University in our Huaihai district 20 years ago. And Quan nodded gently and answered affirmatively. I did record it. Although I just recorded not much, the server was forcibly shut down, resulting in the subsequent details not being recorded. But at least, I definitely recorded the first part of the post, which is very likely to be useful for the case. Do you want to take a look now? As he spoke, and Quan also handed over his Dragon flagship phone. It can be seen, after Su Ming showed his amazing hacking skills, and Quan did not have any jealousy, only full of admiration and some unbelievable praise. Looking at the phone handed by Quan, Su Ming shook his head and refused. It's fine as long as it's recorded. Now I have to go to Brother Sheng and Director Lin to report the latest findings. I don't have time to read the specific content of the post. Brother Quan, please upload it. After that, Su Ming stood up from his position without hesitation. When he was about to leave the technical department, he suddenly remembered something and looked at Wang Hu and signaled. Oh, right, Huzi. Help me check carefully. The middle-aged man who went to Fantawild Happy World alone today is about 45 to 50 years old. I am very suspicious now. The member of the organization who forced Chu Pengfei to death is very likely the same person as the murderer of the dismemberment case at Magic City University. And the video recording of the dismemberment case at Magic City University that I saw earlier, based on the murderer's fingers, it is likely that he was relatively young when he committed the crime. So even if 20 years have passed, the age should be very likely between 45 and 50 years old. Try your best to check and see if the member of the organization was monitoring in Happy World when Chu Pengfei fell from the building. Okay, let's do this for now. After explaining the matter, Su Ming nodded to several police officers behind him who were also filming before, and then left the Criminal Investigation Technology section directly. Not long after he walked out, he saw Su Changxing coming towards him, and before Su Ming could say anything, Su Changxing had already waved his hand in advance and spoke first. How is it, Xiao Ming? Is the address given by Chu Wenbiao usable? Have you broken through the so-called login restriction? Su Ming nodded affirmatively and replied. I have logged in. But the other party's defense is also very good. At present, we have obtained all the agent information like Shogo, and a few that are still uncertain. The details of the 5.13 dismemberment case. Hearing that all the agent information has been obtained, Su Changxing was already a little surprised and pleasantly surprised, and the result was not only that, but also the details of the 5.13 dismemberment case, temporarily suppressing the excitement in his heart. Su Changxing waved his hand without hesitation. Let's go, Xiao Ming. Let's go to the office of the Forest Bureau together. I don't know how long he has been waiting for these key clues. Arrived at the door of the office, Su Changxing knocked twice quite casually, and when he pushed the door open and prepared to go in, a large amount of smoke came out directly. Then Su Changxing waved his hand to disperse the smoke, walked slowly closer, looked up at the ashtray and said, "Master, you are still as good as ever. It hasn't been long, a pack of cigarettes is over, not much different from when you were young." These words were full of ridicule. Lin Tian shook his head helplessly, then put out the cigarette that he had never smoked. Seeing Su Ming also following behind, he spoke seriously. "Xiao Ming, a Sheng. It just so happens that both of you are here, so I don't have to look for you again. Let me talk first. Official media will come to interview and ask about the circumstances of this falling case later. You two can deal with it. Whether from the perspective of our police or the court, this falling case has ended, and the murderer has received the punishment he deserves. Naturally, we should give the public a response to prevent public opinion from becoming more and more extreme. I'll leave this to you." Speaking of this, Lin Tian paused for 2 seconds, tapped the table with his fingers, and continued more solemnly. "The Shud Middle School falling case is over, but we have uncovered something bigger. Let's talk about the rewards first. My boss, Director Su, and I just had a phone call and had a good discussion. We decided to give Xiao Ming a second-class merit and promote him to a second-class police officer in advance. This second-class merit is not only because of the investigation of the Shud Middle School falling case, but also because of Xiao Ming's carefulness and caution, which uncovered such a large drug trafficking organization. Originally, with this kind of merit, he could have received a first-class merit, but Director Su said that this drug trafficking organization is still active, and it is not appropriate to award a first-class merit. For the time being, we will accumulate merits and reward them later. A Sheng also has a third-class merit, which is also accumulated merits and will be rewarded later. These so-called rewards are not important. What is important is..." At this moment, Lin Tian paused for a few seconds. His eyes suddenly became sharp and serious. Director Su negotiated with the higher-ups. It was decided that tomorrow, in the form of a red-headed document from the Ministry of Public Security, the provinces and cities will be announced to launch a 100-day clearing operation for unsolved cases. Chapter 83 Experience shared by the sculptor. Never take the initiative to look for prey. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 100-Day Unsolved Case Eradication Operation. This is a red-headed document issued directly from the Ministry of Public Security, which is enough to show the country's attention to that huge drug trafficking organization, Taiwan Novel Network. After all the official members of the drug trafficking organization have at least one unsolved case on their backs, but Lin Tian's words did not end there, and he continued to tap the table and spoke slowly. And in the 100-day eradication operation, the cities that Xiao Ming discovered earlier are the most important, that is, those. Starting from the time when high-purity drugs were first confiscated, there have been unsolved murders in the key cities in the past 6 months. Because these cities basically have at least one member of the drug trafficking organization hidden. As long as they can be caught, they may be able to completely dig out the drug trafficking organization by following the clues. So in this case, the top leader also issued another special order. Speaking of this, Lin Tian paused for a few seconds, and then said seriously with his eyes flashing. In these key cities, if any criminal investigation brigade can be the first to solve an unsolved case, that is, to catch a member of the huge drug trafficking group, then this criminal investigation brigade will be the main body, and the most elite personnel will be drawn from all over the country to join, to establish a real special task force, and even have more power than most municipal bureaus, and can mobilize personnel from all over the country. All resources and preferential treatment are for one thing, that is, eliminate this huge drug trafficking organization. Although Lin Tian did not say it clearly, but Su Ming and Su Changxing both knew very well, not to mention the honor of being the first to solve the old unsolved case, just the latter, the city's criminal investigation brigade can be the main body, and elites can be drawn from all over the country to form a special task force that is specially responsible for dealing with this drug trafficking organization and has amazing power. It is definitely something that the criminal investigation brigades of each city cannot ignore or miss. This is a real collective honor, there was no special task force that was so large that it needed an entire criminal investigation brigade as the main body, not to mention, with the credit of solving these old unsolved cases and digging out the huge drug trafficking organization, it would be no problem to get the first-class collective merit, so. The criminal investigation brigades of major provinces and cities will definitely do their best to start racing and strive to dig out this drug trafficking organization thoroughly. This is truly healthy competition, although it was not stated explicitly, but as the head of the Huaihai Criminal Investigation Brigade, and the first to expose the drug trafficking organization, and the murderer of the dismemberment case of Magic City University 20 years ago, is currently in this organization. Lin Tian naturally hopes very much, that among the many criminal investigation organizations that are carrying out the clearing of unsolved cases, the Huaihai Criminal Investigation Brigade can become the first organization to solve unsolved cases. This is not only because of collective honor, but also to be able to personally participate in the subsequent special task force and completely eliminate this huge drug trafficking organization. Of course, Lin Tian is very confident now, thinking that Huaihai Criminal Investigation must be closer to the truth and have more potential than any other organization. Because, after carefully recalling Su Ming's exquisite inference details during this period and the various general directions in the case, Lin Tian is undoubtedly sure of one thing: Su Ming's criminal investigation and case-solving ability has reached an extremely terrifying level, far beyond normal college graduates. Even compared to experienced old criminal police, it is not inferior by half. There is such a genius in solving cases. The dismemberment case of Magic City University 20 years ago seems to have become hopeful for investigation, not to mention, at present, video footage of the murderer dismembering the body has been obtained, which undoubtedly increases the chance of solving the case by several points again. At this moment, as Lin Tian finished talking about the decision of the superiors, Su Ming only thought about it for a while, and then spoke slowly without hesitation. Director Lin. Just now, Chu Wenbiao told us the internal dark web of the drug trafficking organization in order to reduce his sentence and avenge his son. Although he didn't browse the forum for long after the forced breakthrough, the server was directly shut down. But in a limited time. Based on the video footage, we can roughly determine the name of this organization, the offline information of similar skinny dogs across the country, and a few details of the murder shared by the murderer of the dismemberment case of Magic City University. Hearing this, Lin Tian was stunned for a moment, staring at Su Ming and Su Changxing in disbelief, because he knew very well how valuable and amazing it was to get all the offline information of this drug trafficking organization. But Su Ming did not stop talking, and continued to talk. I think, if the higher-ups are going to launch a 100-day operation to clear up unsolved cases, we can start by eliminating the frontline agents of the drug trafficking organization in major cities today. This will completely destroy the drug trafficking network they have been operating for many years, and we may also be able to get clues about certain members of the organization from the agents. As for the details of the May 13th dismemberment case, I came here to report before I had time to take a closer look. But Brother Quan has already sent the high-definition video he shot to the internal network of our brigade. Forest Bureau, you can take a look at the specific content of the video first, and then decide how to handle it. This moment, Lin Tian no longer hesitated and quickly waved to Su Ming and Su Changxing. Xiao Ming, Ah Sheng. Come to me and let's take a look at what's in this recorded video. How many amazing clues are there that we can use to completely dig out the hidden members of drug trafficking organizations? After saying that, without any hesitation, Lin Tian immediately opened the internal platform and clicked on the hand-shot video sent by Quan. Su Changxing, who was not in the criminal investigation technology section just now, is also a little curious now, at this time. The next second after the loading circle appears, the originally blank laptop screen suddenly turned into a dark red hue. For letters in a special form an artistic and chilling word, kill. Although there was no special introduction or explanation, the three people present knew very well, kill is the name of this drug trafficking organization, which can be translated as killer, hunter, or even butcher. Time is obviously very tight. The recorded screen did not stay on the organization name for too long and immediately jumped to the agent information, the moment the agent Information appears. Lin Tian and Su Changxing immediately became serious, trying to roughly remember the content in the video, because according to the practice of criminal investigation, when watching the video material for the first time, I basically don't press pause in the middle. I just go through it first to get an impression in my mind. Pause and take a closer look. That's what happens from the second time. As the agent information scrolled to an end, Lin Tian and Su Changxing both narrowed their eyes. 11. In this agent information interface, a total of 11 special codenames similar to Doctor, Poison, Ghost, etc. appeared. Don't wait to think about it. The content of the video changed again. Directly skipping the column of failed cases and coming to the column where posts about successful cases were published. The name of the top post is, Experience Sharing on the Corpse Dismemberment Case at Shanghai University of Finance and Economics. It seems that time is running out. The mouse in the video clicked into this post extremely quickly, and then the screen changed, and a line of conspicuous large characters written at the front appeared in the sight of the three people. Never take the initiative to find prey, but let the prey take the initiative to approach you. Chapter 84 Is the code name a means of committing a crime or a profession? Lin Tian Special Discov. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Never take the initiative to look for prey, but let the prey take the initiative to approach you. No doubt, this sentence is definitely the experience of the murderer of the dismemberment case of Magic City University in selecting the perfect target for the crime. Instead of looking for a suitable target everywhere, it is better to let the prey come to the door. This sentence, although it seems very ordinary, anyone can say such words, but if it is put into the dismemberment case of Magic City University, it will suddenly appear particularly special. Taiwan Novel Network did, because the victim of the dismemberment case of Magic City University was a freshman who came to Magic City alone from a remote area to study in Magic City for less than a year. Interpersonal relationships were very simple, and there was no telecommunications network fraud in that era. This so-called letting the prey come to the door seems to have been able to greatly narrow the scope to a certain extent. Of course, 20 years have passed, and the specific situation is naturally still unclear at present, but at least, this information is definitely a breakthrough. At this moment, the mouse will quickly scroll down, and when the specific post content just appeared at the beginning, the screen suddenly failed to load, and the words 404 appeared. Su Ming sighed helplessly, shook his head and explained slowly. The other party is very cautious. I guess he carried a notebook with him and used it as a server. So after receiving the alarm text message, he directly shut down the server in an emergency in some way. If it could be a few more seconds. Although he didn't finish, but the regret and disappointment in Su Ming's words can be easily heard. Lin Tian stared at the computer in front of him, shook his head with excitement, and said authoritatively. Xiao Ming, there is no need to feel sorry or blame yourself. It is a real surprise to get so many clues and evidence. Not to mention, we have the agent information of each city. We can definitely eradicate the drug trafficking organization's trading chain tonight. However, we still have to see. Did you record the subsequent content at the moment when it flashed at the end? After that, Lin Tian began to try to replay and pause, hoping to see the last moment of the video. Although there are more advanced frame extraction technology now, Lin Tian naturally does not know how to operate it, so he can only use this playback and pause method passed down from generation to generation by the old criminal police. About 2 minutes later, I don't know how many times he tried, Lin Tian finally paused to the last page that flashed by with the method passed down by the old criminal police. This is the beginning of the post content. Although the number of words is not large, the information contained in it is enough to shock people. The specific content is, the police are not as stupid as you think, but they are not as smart as you think. In order to create a perfect murder case, the best way is to make the police never find the body and keep the prey missing forever. Just like those abducted children, as long as their parents don't find the body, they will always believe that they are still alive. Grasp the emotional weakness of the relatives of the prey and remember that the investigation of missing persons is always less intense than that of murder. If you can't do this, throw the body of the prey far enough away from you so that they can't suspect you at the first time, and buy yourself enough time for after sales. Never take the initiative to contact the prey, let alone let people know that the prey was with you at the last time. Let the prey take the initiative to help you conceal it. which is definitely the best way. The prey you want to choose should be very different from your own social status. No matter who has a higher social status, you should make it so that there is not much possibility of contact in the eyes of anyone. If in the eyes of others, you don't even have the possibility of contacting the prey, then how can you become a suspect in the eyes of the police? Remember, the best candidate for prey is the type of person that others think is impossible to contact from your position. If you cannot make the prey disappear mysteriously, find the body, or choose the right target, then you must remember how to deal with the traces afterwards. Dismembering the body is the simplest and most effective way to deal with the prey, but remember it well, in the process of dismembering the body, hide all your traces and characteristics, and even use completely opposite skills and means, so that the police will never suspect you. If you regard the prey as a work, then you have to guide them, and even deliberately leave some misleading clues and evidence, so that the police will never suspect you. This is a double insurance. Just like what I did before, because of the lack of time before, the post ends here. There is no way to know the subsequent content, but it happened, when the murderer of the dismemberment case was about to start describing the detailed methods and process of his crime. Looking at the post that was cut off at a critical position, Su Chongqing sighed helplessly, shook his head bitterly, and complained from the bottom of his heart. I really don't know whether I should say that we had the same idea, or that the murderer was just lucky. It happened to be missing in a place like this. Even if there are 2 more paragraphs later, maybe we can know more details about the murder and key information about the murderer. It's really frustrating to be stuck here and not be able to get up or down. Lin Tian, who has always attached great importance to and paid close attention to this corpse dismemberment case for so many years, also feels the same way, but with the acumen of the old detective, Lin Tian suddenly caught some details, suppressed the thought of lighting up a cigarette, and made a bold guess. Xiao Ming, Ah Sheng. Did you notice it? The code names of those organization members don't seem to be chosen randomly. They all seem to be related to the modus operandi or occupation. Just like in the private cinema potassium cyanide murder case that occurred in Suzhou, the murderer used poison to commit the crime, and in the contact interface, the code name of the person in charge of Suzhou was poison. The case of the boy in red who committed suicide by strangulation in Jinling has always been regarded as haunted. The murderer's code name is most likely the witch. And the murderer of the Villa Chainsaw Corpse dismemberment case used Babu, the name of the chainsaw murderer in other countries' film and television works, as his code name. So I was thinking. Is it possible that the codename of the murderer in the Morty University corpse dismemberment case is also on the previous contact interface? And in order to join this drug trafficking organization, have you ever committed another crime? Based on the similarity of the murders, we can infer whether these 2 codenames are more likely. Speaking of which, Lin Tian switched the video to the contact interface, pointed at the code names of 2 of the organization members, and narrowed his eyes. Just like Babu also cut the victim's body into pieces, and the ghost below represents a very powerful hiding ability. Chapter 85. The murderer is engaged in a special profession with very few people, and he is getting C. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Lin Tian's inference is very bold and accurate. He believes that the code names of the organization members that appeared in the agent information before may not be randomly chosen, but it is likely to be related to occupations or methods of killing, just like Chu Pengfei's code name is Doctor, and a member of the organization in Gusu City, because he often uses potassium cyanide to commit crimes. His code name is Poison. At this time, in Lin Tian's imagination, since this drug trafficking organization only appeared about 6 years ago, the murderer who committed the dismemberment case of Magic City University 20 years ago, will he choose to commit crimes again in a certain city in order to join this organization? Then it caused a certain unsolved case that has not been solved so far, and at the same time he has the qualification to sell high-purity drugs in a certain place. As for the code name, naturally, it is one of the 11 member names that have appeared so far. Babu and Ghost, this is the possible murderer that Lin Tian guessed from the case information and code name alone. In the case of not being in a god's perspective, it is really not easy to make such a large-scale association and inference. Su Ming, who was standing next to him, after thinking carefully for a few seconds, he shook his head and expressed his objection. Director Lin. I think the code name of the murderer in the dismemberment case at Magic City University should not be Babu or Ghost, or his code name is not in the 11 lists that just appeared. That this completely different inference made Lin Tian quite curious and puzzled. Su Ming did not deliberately keep the secret, and after slightly sorting out his thoughts, he continued to explain. Director Lin. From the case itself, the murderer of the dismemberment case at Shanghai University is very likely to have extremely severe obsessive-compulsive disorder, as he was able to dismember the victim into pieces of similar size. And the victims in the chainsaw dismemberment case had bodies of varying sizes, which is not a manifestation of obsessive-compulsive disorder at all. Of course, before that, it can be inferred that this seemingly characteristic obsessive-compulsive disorder is actually a deliberately disguised personality of the murderer. However, after seeing the provocative video of the other party, which is the video recording of the dismemberment, I can infer with great certainty. This murderer absolutely has extremely severe obsessive-compulsive disorder. I don't know if Director Lin, Brother Sheng, do you still remember what the murderer did before he started cutting up the victim's body? But without any hesitation, Su Chongqing immediately recalled the scene at that time, squinting his eyes and speaking slowly. Before the cutting video began, the murderer specially selected several knives that were convenient for him. But no matter how he cut, they were not convenient, and he finally took off his gloves before starting to cut. From the perspective of the final result. If it weren't for this video, we would never know that just choosing a knife would have such a special experience full of obsessive-compulsive disorder. After all, we can only see the pieces of meat from the corpse, so even if the murderer wanted to pretend to have obsessive-compulsive characteristics, he would confuse our sight. Then just make the size of the pieces cut almost the same. There is no need to start with the knife selection, which is a link we can't see at all. From this point, it can be seen that the murderer is most likely an extremely pure obsessive-compulsive patient. Su Chongqing's analysis, Su Ming nodded in agreement, then took up the topic and continued to add. In addition to the choice of knife, it can be seen. Director Lin, Brother Sheng, think carefully about when the murderer first showed the victim's head. Did you notice? The murderer specifically showed every angle of the victim's head, without missing any part in the middle, and the body did not shift at all, even making me feel that he was holding his breath. Even the recording and display of the image of the victim's head was so meticulous, full of obsessive-compulsive disorder of pursuing perfection, which is enough to prove that the murderer's obsessive-compulsive disorder is definitely not deliberately pretended. If this can still be pretended. Speaking of this, Su Ming suddenly paused for a few seconds and spoke seriously and solemnly. I suggest that we all give up on tracking down this murderer for the time being. After all, I can't imagine how outstanding his criminal IQ is to be able to lay out a case 20 years later. Instead of wasting time catching him, it's better to start with other members of the drug trafficking organization. But now I definitely don't believe that this murderer can be so far-sighted and have such a layout and predictive ability. This conclusion, Lin Tian and Su Chongqing both nodded in agreement. It's exactly as Su Ming said. If the murderer of the dismemberment case of the Magic City University can lay out 20 years later, and today he specially takes out a video disguised as obsessive-compulsive disorder to further get rid of suspicion, that's simply too scary. This may no longer be in the scope of criminal investigation, and can be called a science fiction film. Su Ming's inference is not over yet, gently stroking his chin and narrowing his eyes, he continued to make further guesses and judgments. So, at the moment, it seems to me, in addition to the 11 people listed above, there should be 2 other people not included in this drug trafficking organization. Including Chu Pengfei, who fell to his death, the specific number of people in this criminal organization should be 13, as expected. The first person who didn't write it in the first place. He is the leader of this drug trafficking organization. High-purity drugs were first searched by our police in Luzhou, but there were no unsolved murders during this period. Moreover, there is no record of Luzhou's agent or online presence in this contact interface. This is undoubtedly sufficient reason to suspect. The leader of the drug trafficking organization is personally responsible for the business in Luzhou. Naturally, he does not need to pass the organization's assessment and commit murder to prove his criminal IQ. As for the second person, there is a high probability that he is the real murderer of the 5.13 corpse dismemberment case. Although he is in this drug trafficking organization, he does not appear in the agent's contacts. And I came to this inference from two places. The first point is that the files on unsolved cases in cities where high-purity drugs have appeared do not match the murderer's modus operandi. Although a person's physical strength, thoughts, and appearance may change with age. But the modus operandi and the inner character, the vast majority of them have decided from the beginning. Many murderers will subconsciously use their own proficient methods to commit murder. As the saying goes, 3 years old looks older than 7 years old. It must be difficult to reverse obsessive-compulsive disorder over time. Second point. It's the sentence in the post just now where the murderer advised others on how to choose their targets. The best prey is a target that has enough social status gap with you that no one will think that you will have a connection. The victim is a freshman, and her social status is in the middle. Although it is not high, it is certainly not low. There is a big social gap between her and her. I think. Either they are low-level people like homeless people or beggars, or they are people with a high social status and a certain degree of popularity. Plus, there is also a sentence like this mentioned in it. Having the prey come to you instead of you looking for the prey is enough to determine that the murderer's social status at the time was not low. I don't think so after all. The first-year girls who came to study in the magical city from a small place dare to go to homeless people or beggars alone. Since the murderer's social status and popularity are not low, being the top drug dealer in a certain city will inevitably be too conspicuous. Judging from the cautious character of the leader of this drug trafficking organization, I certainly won't risk the entire organization being dug out and let him engage in major drug trafficking tasks in a certain city. Then naturally I won't have an agent, let alone appear on this contact list. So we still don't know what his code name is in the organization, but by integrating it with previous clues, it is currently determined that. At this time, Ming paused for 2 seconds, connected the clues and features in his mind one by one, squinted his eyes and spoke slowly. The murderer of the 5.13 dismemberment case is most likely a person with a high social status, and his own economic situation should not be bad. Or so. 20 years ago, there was a high probability that he would have been a well-known figure, a special group of people that ordinary college students would not easily have access to. And there are not many people in his profession, so long as his profession can be identified. Then the trait of being left-handed is enough to find the murderer. Chapter 86. Instead of bringing justice, it is better to stop the violence at the source. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This is pure reasoning, there are no clear clues at all. Only videos, files, texts and other contents gradually complete the murderer's portrait, just like, the important characteristic of the murderer being a left-hander was Ming's search through the cross-sections of the victim's body and the fractured skull in the file. Only then can the necessary puzzle pieces for solving the case be accurately found and completed. As for now, it can be deduced that the murderer has a high social status and is not short of money. This is from the post in which the murderer of the mutilation case taught how to select prey. There is no clear explanation or evidence, only precise inference based on logic. Now, after hearing Ming's inference just now, Su Changsheng and Lin Tian couldn't help but fall into deep thinking, considering the rationality of logic and inference. A few seconds later, Su Changsheng frowned slightly, and then asked his inner doubts. Ming, if according to your statement, what is the purpose of this drug trafficking organization recruiting the murderer of the 5.13 corpse dismemberment case? Not only is it impossible to go offline and establish a high-purity drug sales chain, but because of his high popularity, he is also likely to implicate the entire drug trafficking organization. With the caution of this drug trafficking organization, and the strictness with which every member must complete an assessment before they can truly become an insider, I can't imagine what the benefits are of absorbing this kind of person into a drug trafficking organization. This question, it also made Lin Tian feel a little confused, since it seems worthless in the past. why should we be absorbed into such a drug trafficking organization? Compared to Su Chongsheng and Lin Tian's confusion, Su Ming had a bold inference in his mind, and then continued to answer. I wonder if it's possible. The murderer of the 5.13 dismemberment case was a veteran of this organization and one of the first people to join or form this drug trafficking organization. If this drug trafficking organization was just starting out, the murderer who committed the notorious and nationally known corpse dismemberment case could be used to endorse it. Then when you recruit other members, you should be able to show enough strength, right? After all, the members of this drug trafficking organization are all antisocial people with great criminal talents. If there were no such people to help deter them, there would definitely be a lot of trouble inside. As a veteran, I naturally don't have to be responsible for developing sales channels. Of course, there is another possibility. That's the murderer of this mutilation case. He is actually a pure drug addict. Since he was not short of money, he began to pursue high-purity drugs. Compared with drugs that are adulterated, high-purity drugs are actually safer to smoke and have fewer side effects. Then by some random coincidence, I happened to get in touch with the founder of the drug trafficking organization in Luzhou. One needs more skills in creating cold cases, and the other needs high-purity drugs. Naturally, they hit it off, each took what they needed and joined this organization. That I have to say, Su Ming's two inferences seem to have no evidence to support them, but if you think about it carefully, they are indeed very possible, because, it can be seen from the past methods of this drug trafficking organization that it is definitely not the kind of charity that you can join casually. If you want to become a formal member, you have to commit a murder, evade police investigation, and hand in a surrender certificate to prove your ability. The murderer of the corpse dismemberment case at Shanghai University, since it is impossible to develop a sales chain for high-purity drugs, it must benefit this organization in other directions before it can become a formal member. Ba Shu 69 knew, think about it this way, no matter how you look at it, you will feel, under this necessary premise, there is a high probability that it is possible to join a drug trafficking organization at the very beginning. Otherwise, when this drug trafficking organization has reached a certain scale, there is really no need for a conspicuous member who is unable to develop a drug sales chain, has only killed people in a relatively long time, and has a high social status. This moment, in Su Ming's imagination and inference, the general portrait of the murderer became clearer and clearer, when Lin Tian was about to continue saying something. The mobile phone on the table suddenly rang a rapid ringtone. After looking at the caller ID, Lin Tian picked it up without hesitation. Listen carefully for a few seconds to hear what is being said on the other end of the phone. Lin Tian tapped his fingers on the table, glanced at Su Ming and Su Chongsheng beside him, and then responded immediately. Okay, Director Guo. Your people have completed other filming, are you just left with the interview step? Then I will ask Captain Su and Officer Su to go down now. They will explain the falling case of Shid Middle School and remind the majority of primary and secondary school students to stay away from crimes controlled by consciousness. Okay, let's do this first. After saying that, Lin Tian hung up the phone without hesitation, shook his head helplessly and said. Currently on major online communication platforms, many spies and traitors have begun to deliberately spread rumors, saying that Zhang Wan was sexually assaulted by Chu Wenbiao and then pushed down from the abandoned teaching building. In order to protect Chu Wenbiao, our police are planning to classify it as a suicide case. So you too should go to the media first to minimize the impact of the Shid Middle School fall case and avoid reducing the credibility of our police. Our internet police are also locking down those IP addresses that deliberately spread rumors. I hope that this time we can catch a few walking 500,000. At the same time, I also need to report the contact information in this list as soon as possible, so that the relevant criminal investigation teams in various provinces and cities can catch these frontline drug agents first. No matter what. If we can get more clues, the probability of digging out this drug trafficking organization will increase a few points. By the way, it's getting late. If it's too late after you finish the interview, then go and have a good rest. You haven't eaten a meal today and have been running all day. Tomorrow. Maybe we can get more critical clues about those drug agents. At the same time, our goal is solve the 5.13 dismemberment case of Magic City University 20 years ago as quickly as possible. After that, Lin Tian waved his hand and signaled the two to leave for the interview. Just as Su Ming was about to leave the office, Lin Tian suddenly thought of something and quickly spoke again. By the way, Xiao Ming. You don't need to hide or cover up anything later. Just tell the truth about the case of Shid Middle School and skip the criminal investigation process. Show your talent as much as possible and your determination to find the murderer and criminal. Of course. You don't have to worry about your identity being exposed after accepting this interview, which will cause problems when you go out in plain clothes in the future. Because we are cats, and those people are rats in the sewer. They are the only ones who hide from us. There has never been a saying that we put away our sharp teeth and claws in order to get close to them. Only when we are stronger can we deter them, so that they will have no fluke mentality at all. They should weigh it carefully before committing a crime, whether they are afraid of being caught by us. This is the ultimate goal of criminal investigation. Instead of bringing justice to people, it is better to deter violence from the source. Chapter 87 Officer Su, do you think there is a perfect crime in this world? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Come to the report reception hall of the Criminal Investigation Brigade. Su Ming has seen a reporter wearing a professional suit and a flesh-colored short skirt, holding a microphone with the words Moda Local TV Station in his hand. Next to this middle-aged intellectual reporter, there is a cameraman with a camera on his shoulder, at this moment. He is shooting various slogans in the reception hall and anti-fraud propaganda to supplement the program length and enrich the program content. The reporter saw Su Ming and Su Changxing walking in the distance, and immediately smiled and extended his hand early. Su Changxing slightly quickened his pace, stepped forward to shake the hand of the intellectual reporter, pointed to Su Ming beside him, and introduced him familiarly. See you again, Reporter Li. This is Officer Su, who has just joined our Huaihai Criminal Investigation Brigade, and is also the biggest contributor to the detection of the Shid Middle School fall case. Then he looked at Su Ming again and introduced him in the same way. Xiao Ming. This is Reporter Li Ying from our local TV station in Shanghai. She has been on the front line of reporting various dangerous events for more than 10 years. Then, regarding the reports on various cases in Huaihai District, Reporter Li Ying has always been in contact with us and interviewed us. After the words fell, Li Ying was the first to extend her hand, looked directly into Su Ming's eyes, nodded gently and smiled. Hello, Officer Su. When our station director called me earlier, he specifically mentioned. He said that Director Lin is very optimistic about you and that you will be the strongest weapon for Huaihai criminal investigation in the future. Over the years, I have never seen Director Lin praise anyone like this. It seems that Officer Su really represents the new generation of criminal investigation power. Please tell us more about your experience in solving cases during the interview. Obviously, this is just a casual remark to get closer to each other. Of course, it may also contain the meaning of hoping that Su Ming can reveal more details of the case. Su Ming didn't care at all. He had already weighed what he could say and what he couldn't say. He gently shook Li Ying's hand and let go. He also nodded and smiled but kept his distance and responded. You're welcome, Reporter Li. As the brief introduction ended, Su Changxing pointed to the electronic clock displayed in the reception hall and urged. Reporter Li, hurry up. We have a lot of things to do today. We have to continue working after the interview. Hearing this, Li Ying didn't hesitate anymore. She also needed to hurry up the interview and go back to ask the staff to edit the film quickly to reverse the misleading public opinion. This is also the most important reason why the Huaihai Criminal Investigation Brigade took time out of their busy schedule to accept the interview, tell the truth through the media. After receiving the prompts prepared by the cameraman, Li Ying raised the microphone to Su Changxing and asked. Captain Su. This morning, a junior high school girl was found dead after falling from an abandoned teaching building at Shid Middle School. Has the Huaihai Criminal Investigation Team found out the specific cause of death? Su Changxing was already very familiar with these questions, and answered without hesitation. Yes, we have found the specific cause of death. First of all, Through detailed on-site investigation and the location of the fall, we have determined that Zhang, who fell to his death, was not pushed down by someone. Instead, he chose to jump off the abandoned building on his back. During this period, another underage girl witnessed the incident. For the protection of minors, I don't want to continue to talk about this detail. But I want to emphasize that although Zhang chose to fall from the building on his own, there are actually traces of being mentally controlled by someone. In other words, this is a homicide, not a suicide. The murderer took advantage of the fact that junior high school students are not well versed in the world and are easily deceived and induced. He used drugs to assist in mental control and finally induced Zhang to commit suicide. But the general public does not need to worry too much. Through our police investigation and patrol, we have identified two important murderers in this case. The mastermind Chu Mofei has committed suicide in the Magic City Holiday Hotel, and his accomplice is also being detained in our Huaihai Criminal Investigation Brigade. Speaking of this, Su Chongqing did not continue to speak. The experienced Li Ying took the microphone back and praised him and asked the second question. It seems that our Huaihai Criminal Investigation team is still extremely fast in solving cases. It has not been more than 12 hours since the case happened, and the murderer behind the scenes has been found, bringing necessary justice to the deceased student Zhang. However, Captain Su, I want to verify some of the comments and details on the internet. Because Principal Chu of Shid Middle School was taken away for investigation in the morning and has not returned to school so far, and the person who committed suicide in the evening was Chu Mofei, who was found out by netizens to be Principal Chu's son. So I want to ask, in this case, did student Zhang suffer sexual assault by Principal Chu, and was threatened and induced to choose to fall to his death? Also, can Captain Su give us a general idea of the subsequent handling and punishment of Principal Chu, as well as the details of the case, that if the previous description of the case was a general description, now it is a positive response to public opinion rumors? Su Chongqing thought for 2 seconds, and then responded with a serious face. First, according to the autopsy results of Shen, a forensic doctor with many years of experience in Huaihai criminal investigation, student Zhang was not violated in any way before his death. Second, from the details of the case we have dug up so far, we have not found any evidence or reason for the murderer to commit sexual assault. Finally, this case is indeed related to the suspect Chu Mobiao, but the main reason is still his son Chu Mofei. As an accomplice, Chu Mobiao will definitely be severely punished by the law. Our Huaihai Criminal Investigation Brigade will provide various details of the case to assist the court in sentencing him. Everything will be based on the Constitution. There will be no personal relationships, no backdoors, and no petty theft. Please rest assured, the general public. As for the details of the case, my colleague Su Ming, Officer Su, will explain it to everyone. Because in this Shid Middle School fall case, it was Officer Su who discovered the extremely important key clues. As soon as these words came out, Li Ying immediately turned the microphone to Su Ming and spoke politely and professionally. Officer Su, could you please give me the details of this case and the general process of solving it? Su Ming sorted out his thoughts and responded expressionlessly. This case is not difficult to solve. The specific key point is: the murderer used an extremely rare method of controlling the crime by consciousness. As long as this point can be judged, it is not difficult to find the murderer later. After all, the person who knows Zhang's family situation so well and takes advantage of it is likely to be near the school. Based on this, it is still very simple to solve the case as a whole. At the same time, I would like to remind the general public here, especially primary and secondary school students, not to be deceived by the so-called freedom and happiness of others because of temporary unhappiness or lows, which will eventually lead to extremely serious consequences. You should also refuse candy, drinks and other items given by strangers. Most crimes controlled by consciousness require the cooperation of drugs. As long as you can improve your vigilance, you can avoid it to a large extent. That's it. When Su Ming finished speaking, Li Ying couldn't help but be stunned, because she didn't expect Su Ming, who had thick eyebrows and big eyes, to be so slick in the interview. He didn't mention any details of the case, or any criminal investigation methods that the audience was most interested in. The main focus was on summarizing the case, warning the public, and expressing the solidity and strength of the police's criminal investigation capabilities. Thinking of this, Lin, who was quite sensitive to news, suddenly caught a possible explosive point and hurriedly continued to ask. Officer Su. You just mentioned a word repeatedly. The difficulty of solving this case is not high. It seems that even the consciousness control crime method that we have never heard of is full of loopholes in your eyes. It makes me want to ask something now. Do you think, is there a truly perfect crime in this world? Chapter 88, Huang Yan's Ending, Reopening the Demon City University Dismemberment Case. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Lin got the answer. With inner shock and excitement, she called the staff carrying the camera back to the TV station. She couldn't wait to edit the interview and post it online and on the TV station, or rather, Lin thought that the interview might cause enough sensation online, after the staff of Magic City TV left. Google search twkan. Su Chongsheng also looked at Su Ming with some emotion and said with satisfaction. Xiao Ming. No matter what others think, I absolutely agree with your answer just now. Okay, it's getting late now. I plan to sort out today's actions and case clues later, and start the investigation and restart of the dismemberment case of Magic City University tomorrow. After all, after the criminal investigation teams of other provinces and cities catch the frontline agents, let's see if they can get key clues after the surprise interrogation. And I also want. Substitute the latest clues tonight and reread the case files. So Xiao Ming, you can arrange the follow-up time yourself now. Tomorrow, we must do our best to solve the 5.13 dismemberment case of Magic City University. After that, Su Chongsheng patted Su Ming's shoulder again with emotion, and prepared to retrieve the detailed files of the 5.13 dismemberment case. At this moment, Su Ming looked at the time and found that it was already 9 o'clock in the evening. He touched his stomach and sighed helplessly. From 10 o'clock in the morning to now that he hadn't eaten a single bite of food. Criminal investigation was like this. He was really busy and had no time to eat. Previously, he didn't feel hungry because of the sense of urgency brought by solving the case and the stimulation of adrenaline, but now, the feeling of hunger came like a flood. He casually took a bowl of unopened instant noodles from the table at the reception desk and prepared to fill his stomach. Suddenly, a slightly hoarse and tired, but full of surprise, voice sounded behind him. Huh? Officer Su, haven't you eaten yet? Come, join us. It just so happens that we have cooked a lot of dishes, so it's just a matter of adding a pair of chopsticks. Hearing this shout, Su Ming immediately turned around and found that Huang Yan's parents were holding a lot of lunch boxes in both hands. He even deliberately raised the lunch box a little, as if to show that he had cooked a lot of food, and it was really not a false courtesy. He glanced at the food in Huang Yan's parents' hands, and then looked at the old jar of pickled cabbage beef noodles in his hand. Su Ming put the instant noodles back on the table without hesitation, and nodded with a kind smile. Then I'll trouble you. Huang Yan's father shook his head quickly and retorted without hesitation. Trouble? How can it be troublesome? And we haven't thanked you for saving Xiaoyan from that situation this morning. On the tea table dedicated to the criminal investigation team, at this moment, it was filled with various home-cooked dishes, and there were at least 7 or 8 dishes. Su Ming sat alone on one side, opposite him was Huang Yan's family, and Huang Yan sat in the middle. Since the team had promised Huang Yan that they could have a meal together, they would naturally not break their promise. Because Su Ming was present and determined that Huang Yan was less dangerous, the police officer in charge of the custody naturally temporarily untied Huang Yan's handcuffs. At this time, Huang Yan's father also handed Su Ming a disposable bowl of rice and apologized politely with his hands clasped together. Officer Su. We didn't know you hadn't eaten yet so late at first, so the dishes we made are Xiaoyan's favorites. Please bear with us. Su Ming waved his hand nonchalantly, took a bite of rice, and smiled. Don't say that. These dishes look so good, the taste must be not bad, at least better than instant noodles. Huang Yan, who was sitting opposite Su Ming, gently took a bite of the tomato scrambled eggs in front of her, lowered her head with slightly red eyes and whispered. Sure enough. Only the tomato scrambled eggs made by my mother tastes like this, no one else can make it. I have forgotten how long it has been since I had to eat tomato scrambled eggs with this taste. These words, Huang Yan's parents were silent for a moment, and they lowered their heads in regret and guilt. After a few seconds of silence, Huang Yan's father raised his head, glanced at Huang Yan who was lowering her head beside him, and then looked at Su Ming and asked seriously. Officer Su. We know about Zhang Wan's life experience, and we just asked other police officers. They said. Zhang Wan's parents are not in Shanghai at the moment, and after we contacted them, they had no intention of coming to handle her funeral. So, we both thought about whether we could help with her funeral. Anyway, she is Xiaoyan's best friend, and we also want her to rest in peace, rather than being kept in the funeral home and waiting for someone to claim her. But now I don't know if it's in accordance with the rules for us to handle this idea. Su Ming raised his eyebrows in surprise, but after looking at Huang Yan, he was not particularly surprised. He took some tomato scrambled eggs that tasted different in Huang Yan's mouth, thought for 2 seconds, and answered. It should be no problem. Zhang Wan has no inheritance, and now she has no relatives. Explain the situation when the time comes. It is naturally feasible for you to handle the funeral affairs on behalf of her, both legally and ethically. Hearing these words, Huang Yan's mood was obviously much better, and she picked up chopsticks more often, and kept praising her mother's cooking skills. But compared to the happy Huang Yan, her mother was not so relaxed. She clenched her fists tightly, and raised her chest several times to ask something, but gave up silently. After several minutes, it seemed that she had made up her mind, and asked with a trembling voice and a little nervousness. Su. Officer Su. I want to ask one more thing. You said that Xiaoyan has taken so many medicines now, so there is still a chance to quit. Before she finished speaking, Huang Yan's father growled and interrupted Huang Yan's mother. What are you asking? Eat, just eat now. Hearing this growl, Huang Yan's mother immediately lowered her head and did not refute anything. She also knew that she should not ask such questions. Su Ming could clearly feel the pain in her heart, and his mind kept recalling the various scenes of his simulation of quitting gambling. He took off the last bite of rice in the bowl, first glanced at Huang Yan's parents, nodded and smiled. Thank you for your hospitality, this is much better than instant noodles. Then he looked at Huang Yan in the middle with an extremely firm look and said seriously. Huang Yan, I tell you. As long as you have enough perseverance, as long as you still want to have a good life, as long as you still look forward to eating with your parents like this. Even if you want to live with Zhang Wan. Then you believe me. People can definitely quit drugs with perseverance. Even if the process is difficult, the result must be worth it. At this moment, Su Ming pointed to his temple and said firmly with great seriousness and solemnity. Use that truly strong will to overcome the addiction brought by drugs. I believe you can do it. After that, Su Ming nodded to Huang Yan's parents, then stood up and left here. After this meal, due to the increasingly busy work later, Su Ming never saw Huang Yan and her parents again. I only know. In the court trial of this case, because Huang Yan is a minor, and the cut wrist wound is not the main cause of Zhang Wan's death, given her attitude of cooperating with the police and not causing serious social impact, therefore, she was not punished, but was also forced to undergo community drug rehabilitation. One day many years later, Su Ming accidentally heard a community policeman say, during her drug rehabilitation period, Huang Yan made a lot of efforts to resist drug addiction. During this period, she also begged for drugs and even threatened to self-harm and fast, but in the end, with her strong will and the help of her family and community, she finally successfully quit drug addiction and started a new life. 8 years later, Huang Yan, who obtained a psychological counselor qualification certificate through undergraduate studies, finally chose to become a junior high school psychology teacher. Chapter 89K, There is no such thing as a perfect crime. Then you better catch me before I die of OL. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After Lin Tian reported the agent list, the arrest order from the Ministry of Public Security was also issued very quickly. There was no waiting for the next day at all. After receiving the order, the criminal investigation brigades of various provinces and cities immediately took action overnight without hesitation to carry out key arrest operations. This night, it is destined to be extremely unstable, with piercing and noisy sirens resounding in many cities, until 12 o'clock in the evening. Of the 11 high-purity drug sales agents recorded on the dark web, 9 more have been arrested in addition to Skinny Dog, who was arrested long ago. The only city where accidents occurred is Suzhou City. When the police finally found a drug agent in Suzhou City from a bathhouse, the poisonous dog nicknamed Fat Cat had already stiffened and lost his breath. However, the lips, skin, and gums all showed a faint bright red color, and the smell of bitter almonds lingered in the mouth. There was also a syringe in his hand, with some thick white liquid remaining in it. This is an extremely obvious characteristic of cyanide poisoning, which can kill people in a short time. Although from the analysis of Sha Mao's death scene and body movements, there are no traces of other people's murder, but everyone knows. It was definitely because Fat Cat knew certain key things that he was dealt with directly at such a critical moment. Although he committed suicide, it is unknown what kind of coercion he suffered during his lifetime, except for the Fat Cat in Suzhou City. After drug agents in 9 cities including Jinling City, Mingzhou City, Ningdao City, Jiahe City, Liangxi City, Wujin City, Taicang City, Jinghai City and Lianjiang City were captured again, the police immediately launched surprise interrogations. I hope to get some information about that huge drug trafficking organization from their mouths, but judging from the past cautious attitude of this drug trafficking organization, since these agents can be caught by the police, they do not choose to deal with them in advance. That can basically determine, there is a high probability that these 9 agents do not know any key information and clues, or what they know are irrelevant trivial matters. Otherwise, these 9 agents were probably just like Fat Cat, who had been quietly eliminated in advance or coerced into committing suicide. Just like Skinny Dog once said, if you are targeted by this drug trafficking organization, the less you know, the longer you may live. Know too much, it will most likely turn into a cold corpse in the end. Now, on the top floor of Xingxing Building in Luzhou City, although it is late at night, the lights are still on in this specially renovated leisure pool resort area. K, who had just come out of the swimming pool, was lying comfortably on the rocking chair wrapped in a white bath towel. He still held the red wine glass in his hand, shaking it gently, and his mood remained calm without any irritation. It seemed that the drug sales network that had been operating for many years was not affected at all by the police overnight. In front of him, it was a laptop playing an interview video, and the reporter's intellectual voice was coming from the video. Captain Su. I found this morning at the abandoned teaching building of Shud Middle School. Look at the interview video in front of you. Kay glanced at the young-looking Su Ming and seemed to smell the same kind of scent. After thinking carefully for a few seconds, with a faint smile of unknown meaning on his face, he looked at the priest who was sitting not far away, still holding a cigar in his mouth and carefully wiping his heavy sniper rifle, and asked, "Pastor, what do you think? Under what circumstances can a veteran criminal investigation brigade with strict ranks be employed? Choose to let an intern who has just joined the job, has not graduated yet, and does not have much experience, participate in the interview of a minor case that has such a huge impact on public opinion? Even in this case, an extremely important clue was discovered by chance, which ultimately provided a lot of help in solving the case. Then you shouldn't be sent to participate in this kind of interview, right? After all, if you say the wrong thing, you'll be in trouble, right? Pastor." For Kay's inquiry, the pastor had no intention of responding, or Kay didn't need his answer. He just silently raised the heavy sniper rifle, put it on his shoulder, squinted through the high-power scope, and observed the Luzhou Criminal Investigation Brigade in the distance. It should not be taken seriously, but it was sent for an interview. At this time, Kay repeated the previous question, grinning with a smile that seemed gentle, but actually concealed madness, and continued. "So, this is the new police officer of the Huaihai Criminal Investigation Brigade named Su Ming. It should be that in the past few days, I have discovered a lot of amazing things and demonstrated my talent in solving crimes many times, so I received such special attention. It is not just a case of falling from a building. It seems that I have found the reason why the doctors who were supposed to pass the examination failed so quickly, and why our business failed after so many years of operation. Did it turn out that a genius detective came here? At this moment, Kay suddenly thought of the dark network he had established during the previous confrontation and had never been breached. The IP from Magic City used violent means to completely break through, and all the offline people who had been developing for many years were wiped out overnight. Even the sculptor, who has been targeted as the next breakthrough point, will most likely have to give up. Last time, I lost, but it was when I was not prepared. What if I was prepared again? Thinking of this, Kay couldn't help but narrow his eyes, then took out his mobile phone from the table and dialed the number using the secondary card. About 15 seconds later, the call was picked up by the person on the other end, and a slightly puzzled questioning voice came out. Kay. What's the matter with calling so late? Do you want me to solve someone else? It just so happens that the work I did this afternoon was destroyed by the doctor, and I'm short of inspiration now. Before the excited words were finished, Kay interrupted them without hesitation. Sculptor. Because you wasted too much time and exposed too many clues for that so-called work this afternoon. I just received news that you have been targeted by the Huaihai police. Also, there is a very talented newcomer in the Huaihai Criminal Investigation Brigade this time. If you want to escape this disaster, I can help you, but the premise is that everything must be done according to my instructions. The other end of the phone was silent for a few seconds. The sculptor suddenly laughed a little crazy, and then said in an extremely confident tone. Kay. My work is perfect enough. Those idiots from Huaihai Criminal Investigation have been looking for me for 20 years and still haven't found me. What do you think? Can I be caught just because of the incident with the doctor during the day? I'm wearing the mask sent by Qianwei. Those idiots will never find me in their lifetime. I'm just hiding from the spotlight. Okay, that's it. I just have some inspiration now. I'm going to design a commemorative work for my 25th anniversary of debut. Oh, by the way. In the evening, I wasted a lot of high-purity drugs to deal with the doctor. Remember to ask someone to send some more over in a while. After that, the sculptor hung up the phone without hesitation. Kay listened to the busy tone coming from the phone and squinted his eyes. At the same time, in the laptop in front of him, Li Ying's pleasant questioning voice came out again slowly. Do you think, is there a truly perfect crime in this world? After a 2-second pause, Su Ming's extremely firm and unquestionable answer sounded like a heavy punch. Perfect crime? I'm sorry, but any case involving someone can never be perfect. The so-called perfect crime is nothing more than the passage of time or the backwardness of technology, which leads to people imagining it as the so-called perfection. In my eyes, there was no perfect crime before, there is no perfect crime now, and there will be no perfect crime in the future. There are only criminals who escape legal sanctions because they did not find the key clues. At this moment, Kay, who was leaning on the recliner, couldn't help but raise the corners of his mouth slightly, staring at Su Ming on the screen, lowering his eyes and mocking himself. Huh? There is no perfect crime. Then I will wait for you to find the clues and punish me, but remember, it's best to do it before I die of old age. Find me. Chapter 90. The details of the knife-holding method were uncovered to further determine the murderer. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next day, when the moonlight faded and the sky was just getting light, Su Ming woke up from the internal dormitory of the brigade, washed up and went to the criminal investigation meeting room to start a new day's work. Today's goals and tasks have long been set, that is, to find as many clues as possible about the 5.13 dismemberment case, or even to capture the suspect in one go. Pushing open the door of the criminal investigation meeting room, Su Ming unexpectedly discovered Lin Tian and Su Changxing were already in the meeting room. One of them held a lit cigarette in his hand, frowning as if thinking about something, and the other was chewing a steamed bun in his hand, with the file of the 5.13 dismemberment case in front of him. After seeing Su Ming come to the meeting room, Su Changxing immediately pointed to the breakfast on the table and gestured. Xiao Ming. You came just in time, let's have some breakfast together. It just so happens that Director Lin was about to talk about the arrest of those drug dealers last night. Without any hesitation, Ming slowly sat down on the chair and picked up the soy milk bun on the table. At the same time, Lin Tian put out the cigarette in his hand that he had never smoked, exhaled heavily, and said with a little tiredness and helplessness. Late last night, the Ministry of Public Security issued an emergency notice to the criminal investigation teams of relevant provinces and cities to immediately arrest the 10 exposed drug dealers. Because the agent information in the list is very detailed, and most of the arrests went smoothly without any unexpected situations. But the agent Fat Cat in Gusu City had committed suicide when he was found, and the means of suicide was potassium cyanide. This highly toxic liquid. It's the same as what we found inside the collar of the Shiba Inu yesterday, and the murder method of the unsolved case in Gusu City is exactly the same. Now we can roughly judge that the drug trafficking organization member in charge of Gusu City has returned to Gusu from the Magic City. And through various possible coercion methods, Fat Cat, who is likely to know some important intelligence and clues, was forced to choose suicide. Hearing this, Ming was not surprised at all. Instead, I think, based on the usual caution of this drug trafficking organization, if they knew that the dark web was forcibly invaded, they still did not deal with the frontline agents who held important internal information and intelligence. That would be a big problem. Even if there is a possibility of deliberately spreading smoke bombs, they should consider carefully whether there is a possibility of deliberately spreading smoke bombs. Even if it is not the members of the organization in Gusu City who take action, the members of the organization in other nearby cities will definitely rush to deal with the Fat Cat immediately, just like, after the skinny dog was arrested by the police this time, it didn't take long for the members of the organization in Gusu City to come to the old community to keep an eye on the skinny dog's family, you can say. This huge drug trafficking organization is like an extremely complex human body. In order to avoid critical problems with the brain and many internal organs, once a certain place has cancer or infection, it will be completely dug out and cut without hesitation to prevent these infections from further deepening. The huge drug trafficking chain that has been operating for many years can be abandoned at will. This kind of decisiveness of cutting off one's arm is enough to illustrate the horror of this drug trafficking organization and the rigor of its internal style. At this moment, Lin Tian couldn't help but shook his head, and then continued helplessly. After arresting the other 9 people, the criminal investigation teams of major provinces and cities conducted surprise interrogations last night, but unfortunately, no drug dealer agent knows the key news and intelligence. When those members of the organization contacted these agents, they all used voice changers to disguise themselves and adopted a one-way contact method. At present, we have obtained some transaction locations and detailed characteristics of speaking styles, which cannot bring substantial help to finding the murderer for the time being. Of course. Subsequently, the criminal investigation teams of other provinces and cities may be able to use these details to dig out the members of the drug trafficking organization hidden in their cities. But for us, if we want to solve this dismemberment case from 20 years ago, we can only rely on what we currently have to further analyze and search. Speaking of this, Lin Tian suddenly paused for a few seconds, picked up the remote control on the desktop, turned on the LCD TV opposite, and played the dismemberment documentary again. The first scene, it was still the bloody hands holding the blood-stained head, but when the murderer was about to twist the victim's head and prepare to fully display it, Ming, who was observing carefully, suddenly noticed. The bloodstains on the murderer's palm were obviously uneven. The bloodstains in the middle of the palm were obviously more even, while the bloodstains at the junction of the metacarpophalangeal joint and the palm were darker and lighter. The bloodstains at the end of each metacarpophalangeal joint were darker and lighter next to them. At the same time, the fingers were relatively slender, but the joints were slightly protruding, just as Ming was thinking about the possible reasons for the details. The video had already moved to the second part. It was the scene where the murderer kept trying to cut the knife. When the murderer took off the rubber gloves, Lin Tian suddenly stopped the video recording and greatly enlarged the front part of the palm. Then, Lin Tian pointed to the side of his finger in front of him, then narrowed his eyes and spoke slowly. Xiao Ming, a Sheng. I watched this video for several hours yesterday, and even zoomed in on many key scenes. I found an extremely important detail here. Did you see that there are many cuts on both sides of the murderer's fingers, and many of them have healed into scars? And judging from the thinness and smoothness of the fingers, it is obvious that the murderer usually takes care of his hands, but the knuckles are unexpectedly protruding. I think the murderer's profession is probably to make a living with his hands, so he would take such deliberate care of them. In addition, there are many cuts on the fingers, and the protruding joints indicate that the murderer needs to practice and work with sharp tools frequently. I can now judge that the murderer's profession is not calligraphy or painting, but a profession that requires sharp knives to practice or work. Similar to doctors, forensic doctors, butchers, chefs, anatomists, and even undertakers. Just then, Ming suddenly thought of the reason why the bloodstains on the murderer's palms were of different depths, and then interrupted Lin Tian's subsequent words, saying seriously, "No, Director Lin. It is very likely that he is not a doctor or a forensic doctor, because I can now basically judge that. When the murderer was practicing and working with knives, he rarely used the bow or pen-holding gestures commonly used by doctors and other professions. Most of them used. It is more convenient to use force, and the palm is close to the handle of the knife. The hammer grip.